Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking through all of the products that have pan in my collection. I filmed one of these, I think probably like a couple years ago at this point, and it's really interesting like looking back on that video and seeing what products I still have in my collection that I had back then, what products I don't, either through decluttering but mostly through actually just finishing them up, what new products I've hit pan on, and the products that the pan has expanded. So a lot of change, I think, since the last time I filmed this video. And also I just find it super interesting to watch these videos to see the amount of pan someone has in their collection. I have a lot of eyeshadow pan, probably because I've been doing a pan those eyeshadows pretty consistently for the last few years. And I think that the pans in the rest of my collection kind of fluctuate because I hit a new pan, but I'm also like finishing products. Like I finished 2 bronzers in the last couple years and a blush, and so those products are cycling out of my collection and I'm rolling new ones in, which obviously I'm not always hitting pan on as fast. So all of that to say is there has been some change, which is obviously gonna happen and is good, and I just hope all of you enjoy this video. I personally find these videos super satisfying to watch, so if you're interested in seeing all of the pans that I have in my current collection, please keep watching. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start with everything but the eyeshadows because that is where the majority of my pans lay, and we can run through those after we hit on everything else. I'm gonna actually start off with a non-powder product, but I figured I would include this because technically you can see the pan there. So this is the ABH Brow Freeze Wax, and as you can see I have a huge pan. The only little bit of product is right here along the edge. I've already repurchased this. I really enjoy this product. I feel like it sets my brows into place and holds them there, which is like what more could you ask for? And I've had this for quite some time now and I use it pretty much every single time I do my makeup, and I still have a little bit left. So it's definitely one of those products that like you don't fly through like some brow gels, which I feel like can be used up really fast. I feel like this one has a lot of lasting power, so enjoy it for that as well. So that is my first pan, and now we're going to talk about powder products because that's the rest of the pans that I have to share. The first one that I want to talk about is the one and only pan I have in my face powder collection. I'm working on panning an Hourglass powder in my project pan, but I have not hit pan on it, and that is definitely what I want to hit. But last year I was panning this powder, which is my Kosas Cloud Set powder, and at like the last update I hit the tiniest amount of pan right here, so really excited to have that like little edge of pan in this product. And I really like this product. I feel like it's very smoothing on the face and I've thoroughly enjoyed using it, but I did just want to try working on something else this year, but definitely want to get this one finished up sooner rather than later. But right now my focus is on the Hourglass one. A product that I am currently panning right now is this Makeup Geek blush in the shade Romance. This one has an interesting pan because the pan is around the outside, and that is because I recently pressed it. So I am currently working on panning this one and it was starting to crumble. I had a pretty large size pan and the product was just around the outside, and so I smashed it all up, repressed it, so now it's back in the center. It is a bit crumbly still, but it's definitely a lot easier to use and it's not like totally breaking apart like it was earlier. And this is one that I definitely want to get done this year. Another blush that I have pan in is this Too Faced Love Flush blush in the shade Baby Love. And so I have a pretty good size pan in this one. I do feel like it doesn't have the same color payoff that it used to, and some of you suggested kind of repressing it or mixing some other pigments in with this one. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this one yet. I am obviously focused on this blush right now, and then I think I will probably come over to this one and figure out if this is something I want to work on or if this is something I just want to declutter because it is an older one in my collection, or if this is something that I maybe want to experiment with and mix in some other colors and repress. I don't know exactly yet. I did love this one when I was originally using it. When I first bought it, I'm kind of like about it now. I think that just could be because of the age of the product. All right, the rest of the pans that I want to share before we get into the eyeshadows are all highlights, which is kind of amazing that I have pan on 4 different highlights, but I think it's because blushes and bronzers I'm able to finish, whereas highlights I have a much harder time finishing. So I'm hitting pan, but there's still a ton of product left in here. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is this Urban Decay highlight in the shade Sin. So as you can see, pretty good size pan there. This is actually in my Shop My Stash project pan right now, and so I'm really enjoying this one. I love this one because it's just a way more subtle highlight in my collection than some of my other ones. Some of my other ones are like, psh, like in your face. This one's definitely way more subtle, which I enjoy. And as you can see, there's like a decent sized pan in there, but there's still so much product in here, which will probably be kind of what I say about all of these highlights. So the next highlight that I have pan in is my Becca highlight in the shade Champagne Pop. Again, decent sized pan, but also so much product left in here. Like this could last me a long, long time. This is just like one of my absolute favorite highlights. It's just so beautiful. I used this when I did my sister-in-law's makeup for her wedding, and I use this a lot like in the summertime, like on my collarbone and my shoulders, and then obviously like when I do my own makeup on my face as well. But this one is definitely one of my favorites in my collection. I also have pan on this Benefit Cookie highlight, so a little tiny pan right there. And this is a beautiful one as well. I love this highlight. It's a pinky highlight, which I don't have other than this in my collection. So I do really enjoy it because it's a little bit different than some of my other shades. And I love the formula. I love how it looks. And I'm happy that there's like a little cute little pan in there. And then I also have pan on probably my oldest highlight. So this is my MAC Soft and Gentle highlight, a classic. And this is a baked, like mounded product. And so I was able to get pan like down through the center of it, which is the thickest part. And it, as you'll probably see, I'm gonna do close-ups of all these. There's like, it's like a waffle pan, which was interesting because at first I was like, is this pan, is this not? But obviously it is. But again, when we're talking about the amount of product, there is so much in here still. So you're like, wow, I hit pan, but nowhere near ever finishing this up. But I still love this one. This is still performing amazingly well, and it's just such a classic. It's so beautiful. So while I have pan in here and it's an older one in my collection, I still love using it, and I still love bringing it into the rotation, and it's cool to see that pan grow. But I also swirl my brush around in other places to hopefully, you know, use the rest of the product as well. That is it for pan that is not eyeshadow. So let's start talking about all of the eyeshadows. I'm gonna start off with my 3 single shadows that have pan. The first is this L'Oreal Infallible Amber Rush eyeshadow, and I have a decent sized pan in this one as well. This one was a top favorite of mine for a long time when I first got it. I just was like, I didn't have a ton of eyeshadows at the time, and I just found that to be the most beautiful shade. It still is a beautiful shade, but there is an update about this eyeshadow that will be coming in my next Shop My Stash project pan update, so stay tuned for that, because while it's beautiful, it doesn't perform it like it used to. The next one is my Kiko Milano 200 eyeshadow. Again, this one's interesting because there is pan like down through the center there, and I was able to hit this in a Pan Those Eyeshadows project. There is a ton of eyeshadow though still in here, just as like with the highlights, but it's a really beautiful shade. Happy to have pan on it, but also happy that there's a ton of eyeshadow left in here. I actually got this on a trip to Italy with my husband. We were in Venice, went to the Kiko Milano store there, and this was one of the products that I picked up. So definitely have a little bit of a special feeling towards this one just because of that trip. And then I also hit pan on this eyeshadow. This is my Makeup Geek eyeshadow in the shade Bitten. I worked on this last year and I Pan Those Eyeshadows project pan and was able to hit pan on it. And this is probably the oldest eyeshadow in my collection, so I was really happy to hit pan on it. It doesn't perform like it's brand new, but it also, I found, to still perform pretty well. So I was happy to just, you know, hit pan on it. I'll keep it in my collection and we'll see. I completely used up another Makeup Geek eyeshadow single last year. I don't know if I'll do the same with this one, but I am happy to have pan on this, like I said, because it is an older one in my collection. All right, let's jump into the palettes. We're gonna start off with the palette in my collection that I think has the most pans in it, and this is my Lorac Pro palette, early palette to my collection, so that's one reason why there's a lot of pan. The other reason is these shades aren't terribly deep and they're a little bit dusty, so you're able to move through them rather quickly. So to not harp on all the shades in here, but the shades that I hit pan on are Cream, Taupe, mauve, champagne, gold, light bronze, and pewter. And I have a pretty deep dip in garnet as well, and a, you know, semi-deep dip in sable. So definitely a lot of progress made on this palette. I've talked about this before. If I were ever to do like a pan that palette, I think I would work on this one, but I'd like to see like more pans in here. I'd like to see all of them have pans before I try and pan a whole palette. And I don't know if that'll ever happen. I finally rolled in this nude shade into my Pan those eyeshadows, but I rolled it in at the beginning of December last year. So I was like, I finally got a shade from this palette in my Pan those eyeshadows, but it was at the end of the year. So I'd love to roll in another shade from this palette into my Pan those eyeshadows to really start, you know, building up more pan in that palette. Another old one in my collection is my Urban Decay Naked palette. I have a few pans in here, so I have pan in Naked, Sidecar, and Buck. That's it. I'm very close on Toasted. I was working on this last year in my Pan those eyeshadows. That one, honestly, I feel like if I used it a few more times, I'd probably hit pan, and I'm also very close on Half Baked. A newer eyeshadow palette to my collection is this ABH Nouveau palette, and I have pan on the shade Belle. Really pretty shade there. And then I'm also working on the shade Metro currently in my Pan those eyeshadows. A favorite palette in my collection is my ABH Jackie Aina palette. I absolutely love this one, and I have a few pans in here to, you know, prove that. So I have pans on the shade Pinker, I have a pan on the shade Lituation, and I have a pan on the shade Sponsored. And then I'm currently working on, in my Pan those eyeshadows, Shookington and Edges. So hopefully I'll have pan in those two by the time, you know, we do film this video again, I guess. I also have a couple pans in my Alamar Spanglish palette. I have pan on the shade Ha Ha Ha, and I have pan on the shade Moi Excited. So 2 pans in this palette. This Moi Excited shade was in a Pan those eyeshadows and literally took me forever. So many uses. It was so tightly packed. And then this shade I just used on the side as like a crease shade, like it wasn't even in a project, and I hit pan on it. The difference in the formula between these two matte shades was night and day. So very interesting there. I also have some pans in my ColourPop Kathleen Lights So Jaded palette. This palette is another one similar to that Moi Excited shade where it's so difficult to hit pan in this palette. These shades are just so tightly packed. I just have a hard time hitting pan in here, but I do have a couple pans. So I did hit pan on this shade. This is Diamond. This is like their Super Shock shadow in this palette. So I used this right when I got this palette and hit pan on it. And then I also hit pan on Geodude. I think it was last year in a project. That took a while. And then I have a pretty good dip in this Garnet shade. I think this was also in a project, but didn't quite hit pan on that. I should just spend a little bit of time focusing on that one though, and I think I'd hit pan on it really fast. And then otherwise, it doesn't look like there's a ton of usage in here, although there is a good amount of usage in here. It's just, like I said, all of these are so tightly packed that you have to work on them a lot to be able to see progress. Next is my Tati Beauty Volume 1 palette. I absolutely love this palette. I did watch a video of hers and it sounded like it was coming back. I don't know. I don't really keep up on that stuff, but stunning palette nonetheless. And I used the shade Aura in Metallic, and I have a pan on that one right here. And then I have my 2 Morphe Jaclyn Hill palettes. These ones just love to pop up in my Pan those eyeshadows projects. And so the original Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette, I don't have all of these names memorized, so we're just gonna point to the colors, but I have pan in this one up here. I have pan in this pink one, pan in this one right here. I have pan in this one down here. I think that's it. And then I have quite a few pretty deep dips in this palette as well. So I could definitely hit more pans on probably several shades in there. And then in my Morphe Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette, I have pan in the shades I'm In It, Perfectionist, Flawed and Odd, and Good Place. So again, some good progress in that one as well. And that is it. Those are all the pans in my collection. So quite a few. I'm very proud of all of the pans in my collection because it's a lot of work that went into using those products to hit them. And I would like to see the number of pans go up, but I'd also like to finish a lot of these products. Probably not the eyeshadows, but all of the other ones. So it's interesting, like I said, how these numbers will fluctuate. So I hope all of you enjoyed this video. I hope it was interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in my next one. Bye.